To our, yeah, I'd like to welcome everyone to our 2024 Public Speaker Series, our Senior Kappa 2024 Public Speaker Series. My name is Brother Gary Simpson. We have a great speaker tonight. Before I give a little information on the speaker, our Senior Kappa Committee is, our mission is to uphold the Kappa Alpha Psi value of service by conducting these public speaker series. We very uh, into sharing information with the public and helping people with these by presenting these series each time that we have them. So our speaker tonight, her name is Dr. Camille White. I'll give you a little information on Dr. White. As a physician and a digital health executive, Dr. Camille White brings a wealth of experience and insight. Her journey from medicine to motivational speaking and executive coaching is nothing short of inspirational. Dr. White's presentation, Identifying and Leveraging the Hidden Job Market, promises to inspire, motivate, and challenge attendees to navigate their industries for less stress and better health outcomes. Whether you're a job seeker, a career changer, or simply looking to gain an edge in your professional life, this event is for you. Dr. White's strategies and insights can help you uncover the unstrapped potential within the job market, setting you on a path to success. With further ado, I will give you Dr. Camille White.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm happy to be here. Hey, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm talking about the hidden job market. It's imperative to be able to navigate your career using soft skills. So a little bit about me. I am a physician by training, and I pivoted my career into the government space and then big tech executive. In the clinics, I noticed a lot of job-related stress and disease. In corporate, I saw the same. As a matter of fact, as a medical professional, I experienced a lot of racism, bullying, and abuse, and it resulted in fibromyalgia as well as chronic fatigue. Luckily for me, I was able to recover, and then I took my skill set and pivoted into the government and then big tech. One of my concerns was being able to make the same type of salary, money, and bonuses that I made in the medical profession. And I was able to do that successfully by thinking about the skill set that I had gained, thinking about the macroeconomic landscape and what I could do in different professions. So as I pivoted from medicine to government and then big tech, I saw much of the same. I saw people that were suffering from various microaggressions, had stress-related diseases, and I saw a need to really embrace our holistic selves. And this encompasses the impact of our careers, aspirations, self-talk, and the environment on our health and wellness. So as a business coach, I inspire, motivate, and challenge folks to navigate their careers, have less stress, and better health outcomes. And there are my affiliations at the bottom. I'm a graduate of a HBCU, as well as The Ohio State University, life member Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, member of Forest Black, and have done some very inspiring work across the health information technology landscape. So for tonight, I want to talk about the traditional job campaign, well, actually a job campaign, the typical job search, the levels of networking. We'll do a little bit of deep dive into fractional work, as well as something that I call do-it-yourself reverse recruiting. We're going to talk about venture capital and startups, because in the country, there is a drive to plug Black people into venture capital, and actually Arlen Hamilton is trying to create 1,000 millionaires this week. And then we'll talk about mindset and energy. She's creating 1,000 millionaires this year, and she's been on the cover of Black Enterprise magazine. And there are different opportunities for us to get education in the venture capital space. So we'll talk about the job campaign. So I have 4 college degrees. I have an undergrad in biology, 1 in chemistry, a master's in health administration, and a doctorate in medicine. And although I have these degrees, I find that you need soft skills to be able to navigate. And as a Black woman, we all know that Black people are some of the highest educated segments of society. But even with those degrees, a lot of times there's lacking in the navigational skills. I believe personally that we are over mentored and not sponsored enough. Sometimes we just don't have that insight to be able to get to the next level or navigate appropriately. And now with artificial intelligence, is doing a major impact to the different industries. So with artificial intelligence, communications, relationship building, strategy, people management, and operations are still highly sought after skill sets, even in medicine. Now with the artificial intelligence, they've been replacing radiologists. So you have this technology reading the films and the MRIs that are taken from patients, and then you have 1 or 2 doctors that are approving it. So when you think about your career, it is actually a campaign. And when you think about your career, you should be thinking about the vision that you have for your life. So what do you want your life to look like? And that is the main thing. And then from there, you think about what type of career you want to have and how your career fits into this grand vision, right? And so my methodology includes a step-by-step approach. And as far as leadership is concerned, you know, most CEOs, and you are the CEO of your life, you think about your life with a big picture in mind, not just about what you're doing right now, but how you're marching towards this end goal. And if you think about that, it is an entire campaign. So what's your industry fit? What's your marketing position? What's your value proposition? What do you bring? What's your, we call it a brag book and accomplishments now, but it's also your portfolio. What's your portfolio? I like to think about it as your receipts that you have proven what you're able to do, and then networking, reaching into the hidden job market, and then working the plan until you get to that dream job. So all of this encompasses the job campaign. So I always like to dream big. I am a believer in God, the universe, and he or she, if you want to call Mother, Father, God, however you approach it, has given us different skill sets. We have our own personal stories. We have a certain amount of creativity that we need to bring to bear. So if you think about that, you're thinking about the big picture. What's your purpose? What are your goals in life? What would you look like on the cover of Time magazine in 5 years? What would you have accomplished? And then think about what's stopping you from getting there. If you had a magic wand, unlimited budget, what is it that you would do? And then think about what's your North Star? What gives you pleasure? What drives you? For me, my North Star, I can stand on the fact that I've increased access to care for 10 million people through the use of digital health technology. And so that's my North Star, is creating access to opportunities and care. And my career spanning achievement is the 9 million people that I've been able to impact. That's what I open up with. And if they're not impressed with that, then they're not looking for me. So let's be clear, this is a money conversation. And so imposter syndrome has to go out the door. If you feel a certain way about money, this isn't for you and you aren't my people. So you must remember, you are a brand. Just like any company, you are a brand. What you embody, your accomplishments, you bring it forth to bear. Your job search is a campaign. And your network, the people that you know, the brothers in the chapter, sorors, folks that, I network, whoever you network with, they are part of your intellectual property. Those are people that you know. They bring value. I have recruiters that call me all the time and say, hey, you have 5,000 LinkedIn connection. I know you know this doctor, this person, that person. Can you introduce us? Or we want you to come work for us so that you can connect us with them. And it's a no, because that is my personal intellectual property. And you must have a money mindset. You must understand that money can be used to support your family. People with money can do good things in the community, and you should not feel guilty for making a lot of money. So let's talk about the typical job search process. And what we want to do is navigate that typical search process. We want to bypass the job search portal, and we want to back channel or bypass the recruiters. So the action plan is to conduct networking and informational interviews. And you can use LinkedIn to connect with people, or however you like it. Request a 15 to 30-minute coffee chat informational meeting. And what I like about this is, I came into my organization, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, in 1992. And back then I went through a process called a pledge process. And I had to reach out to big sisters and get to know them, right? I would call them, I would write down information about, what their favorite foods were, the members of their family, what their preferences were. And this is very similar to a coffee chat. It's an informational meeting. You're getting to know people. Some people think it's stranger danger because they're reaching out to folks that they don't know, but it's definitely necessary for creating inroads. You also want to focus on quality networking. So you want to reach out to people that you have a shared common point of interest with. So community groups, whether you share the same interest, industry focus, you have a career interest, or they're talking about how they pivoted their career using a skill set from one industry to the next. It might be a cultural connection, somebody that you went to college with, somebody within the HBCU, alumni association, whatever it is, personal passions, alumni. You want to connect with these people because you're more familiar with them and they're more likely to give you information. And your weekly goals, you would reach out to around 10 people per week. You would connect or follow them. And then you will wait at least 2 days to ask for an informational coffee chat. And then try to have 5 informationals per week if you can. I like using LinkedIn or Hunter.io. Hunter.io, I can find the email addresses for different managers. Now, some people don't like LinkedIn. Some of my clients do not like LinkedIn because they say it's become more political. And they say that if they're looking for a job, they want to be incognito. They don't want their company to know they're looking, and they don't want their coworkers to know that they're working. But you do not have to post this on LinkedIn. You're just reaching out because people sometimes are more accessible there. Also, if you can't reach people on LinkedIn, it might be because they don't use that platform, or they're working, or they're not prone to using social media. So Hunter.io, for me, I find people's email addresses there or reach out to them on other platforms. So now, if you're hesitant about reaching out to people, and then once you reach out to them, you're saying, what do I say? Oh my gosh, I feel paralyzed. You want to think of yourself again as someone who is happy to be talking to this person. And when you talk to people, they want you to be very straight to the point, where I would say explicit, but kind, nice, that kind of thing. So it's good to say, oh my gosh, I really liked your LinkedIn profile. I've heard a lot about you. We have certain people in common. Can you tell me about your path to the company? And then they'll start chit-chatting. And then what advice would you have for someone trying to get into your company, right? And then based on very little you know about me, where do you think I may make an impact at your company? And then do you know anyone on that team I could perhaps chat with? Are there any Slack groups, any white papers that I should be reading, any groups or newsletters? And then, oh, I'm super excited to work at that company, but I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I'm also considering these handful of companies. What do you think about this list? And people will say, yes, I know someone who works there. Oh, that will be a good company. Hey, I know, maybe I can do a warm introduction for you. I find that people are more than willing to help connect you. And then are there any other companies that you could suggest? And some people say, you know what, I interviewed over at this company. I thought it was really good. I ended up going with X, Y, and Z, but I can introduce you to someone over there or check out their page. And then since they've taken this time to meet with me, I like to say, is there anything that I can help you with? And then they'll say, yeah, I remember that work that you did with the NIH, or, hey, I remember, whatever. And I'll walk them through that. And it's like an exchange of information, like a knowledge share. And then I always say, speak less and listen more, because once you get them in a conversation, they will start talking and talking and talking, and you want to take those notes. And then at the end of the conversation, thank them and be sure to send a thank you note. So let's talk about levels of networking. So there are various levels. You have your acquaintances, and these are just people I like to call high and by people. And the medical literature even talks about people like the mailman. If you work from home, you'll see the mailman on a daily basis. Hey, how are you doing? Or people that walk dogs in your neighborhood. You know them by high and by. Might be a neighbor, you might know them, but you really don't have a deeper connection with them. Those are casual friendships, and they even help boost your health. Then you have your advocates. They champion your cause. They campaign on your behalf, and they want others to see you in a good light. So for example, if you're at work and someone says, hey, I know Dr. White, she's very standoffish. This person will say, no, she's really a kind individual. I talk to her all the time. She's a great person. So that helps with how people perceive you in the workplace. Then you can have allies, and these people are usually from a different cultural background, but they genuinely want to be a friend and they want to get to know more about you. And they're eager to go to coffee with you, lunch or dinner, and sit down and have a conversation. And I just want to make a note that there are three different levels of networking, and they can take place in person or social media. And since COVID, people have really been using social media, but just because you have a large number of followers on social media, and just because these people are following or maybe liking or commenting on your posts, doesn't mean you have an actual connection or relationship with them. They're just people on social media. Don't expect them to support you in the job campaign. Another thing that I want to mention is, just because you worked with someone doesn't mean that they would support you in getting another job. As a matter of fact, I do not like to tell people that I work with if I'm looking for a new job or if I'm preparing to promote. I like to keep things very tight. Another thing I don't like to do is I don't like to tell them a lot of my personal business about, kids, if you're married, what your husband does for a living, income, any of that. I like to keep it, just very close, tight-lipped. Work is work. That's where I, exchange information about the job that I'm doing. That's just me. So the next level that I really like is the sponsor level. And a sponsor will go to bat on your behalf. They already work at the target company. In the conversation that you have with them, you want to articulate what you would like in your career, the skills that you bring to bear, and your track record of execution that you bring to the table. So if you have an outcomes-based resume, I worked for a company that was worth $220 billion. I increased my book of business from 10 million to 30 million within 12 months. You want to be talking to them about things like that. What I like about a sponsor, and an example is this. I met a woman, she was a fellow physician. She was working at AWS, and the tech industry went through a lot of layoffs. She said, hey, what were you doing at Salesforce? I talked to her about it, and she said, oh, we're going to be hiring for that position, and I have your resume and I'm going to hold on to it. And then when things happen, I'll bring up your name. I said, fine. I had another woman that I met. She was at Google. She said, I'm going to be building a team, creating another department. I'm just waiting for the budget to be approved and for the head count. And I have your information. I'm going to hold on to it. And I said, great. So sponsors will move beyond transactional conversations, and don't think don't interpret the absence of a target role as lack of preparedness, because a lot of times the jobs that they're talking about haven't even been posted yet. They keep them in the back of their mind, and they're creating a bench for these opportunities. And this is actually part of the hidden job market. And so my friend that was at Google that was building a team that the jobs weren't even posted yet, and she was waiting for her head count, she said, I want you to meet these other people that work here at the company. And so I started meeting them. And then when she got the head count, she said, I'm just posting this job for 3 days. And I want you to start interviewing for it. I said, okay. And she just posted it for 3 days because she already knew the people that she wanted, and she didn't want the general public to be applying for it. I'm going to take a sip of water. So why would someone sponsor you? There is mutual benefit. Furthering your career helps them further their career. I've gotten positions where I meet people and they're talking to my boss and they're saying, oh my God, where did you find her at? Right? So your boss knows smart people. He brings them on board, and people like him for that. There's also altruism. They want to help good people advance. They see something in you and they say, I want to help this person. And when there isn't even a job description posted, they will take your resume and your background and write a job description based on it to make sure you are the one that's being selected. So what does this look like? This looks like people sitting around the table, and the sponsors, they often have line of sight on those opportunities that haven't been posted, but they're being discussed internally. And this is the conversation. I need to hire 4 more leaders to manage the new division that's being created. I'll have the budget approved in Q4. Sponsor says, oh, so now we have the head count. Great. I have a bunch of people. I'm going to call them. Let's set them up. So they'll have that bench of people keeping you warm, introducing you to everybody else on the team. And then when the time is right, bam, they plug you in. So why aren't these jobs posted? That seems strange. But for critical roles, companies don't want their competitors to know that they don't have anyone for that job. And if they're launching a new department, they may not want their competitors to know that they're doing something new and innovative and who's coming on board. The company may not want to spend money on advertising, and then they might be too busy to launch a formal search. Or the hiring manager knows someone that knows someone, so they don't post the job. And then there might be someone who's currently doing the job and they don't want to tip them off that they're being replaced. So make sure your network knows you're looking and what you're looking for. And you can use social media or other avenues to find out who's coming and going. And there is a website called Lead 5, and it talks about higher level positions, who's leaving, and then who's been replaced. And I would also look for pain points that I can solve for the company. Let's talk about fractional work. So fractional work is often done to replace your corporate income in a few days per week. This is usually for people who are in higher level roles, but project managers and marketing folks are also well sought after. So the job that you're doing in corporate today is the job that you will continue to do, but for clients on a part-time basis. And one key point is that it is part-time, more than likely a leadership role, is fully integrated, part of the team with no end date. There is no difference between a full-time chief executive officer, for example, and the fractional counterpart, except they're part-time and probably have other work, whether it's fractional or consulting. Now, fractional work has picked up in recent years, and the data is leveling off on it, in that it is usually $6,000 to $11,000 per month, 1 day per week per client, usually no more than 10 hours per client. So if you're working for XYZ company, you'll work with them 1 day for each out of each week, but just for 10 hours. And then you bill them that $6,000 to $11,000 per month. And you can do multiple clients per month. Usually this work is found with startup companies, mid-sized companies, or nonprofit companies, because they just don't have the budget to bring in a chief executive officer for $300,000 a year. They would rather do the fractional component. So let's drill down on the data points, because people want to know, well, what does that money look like? So for an example, charging $6,000 to $11,000 per month, depending on your skill set. If you just wanted to do 2 clients, 20 hours a week, client number 1, $8,500 per month per 12 months. And that is $102,000 annually. Client 2, $7,500 per month times 12 months. That's $90,000 annually. And so your total annual with the 2 clients, you're working 20 hours a week total, is your $192,000, average 10 hours a week, 2.5 days. You would construct your own contracts and deals with the clients. You will be responsible for the taxes as well as other items. So with fractional work, you have to create your own contracts and your own deals with the clients. I mentioned the taxes. It's up to you to structure it the way that you want. Some people do a base retainer and then go hourly once that is reached. You may also want to consider contracts with a use it or lose it, up to X hours per week with a minimum billing requirement. And then you get to work with really great organizations and industries. You get to diversify your background and increase your value. But the key to this is how you construct the contracts, right? When I had a business a few years back, and I made the crucial mistake of saying, okay, we figured out an hourly rate, right? And so they could say to me, we don't need you this week. And then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I had them on the calendar. They're taking up space that I could have used for another client, but they're saying, we don't need you this week. And so I'm not making that money. I don't like that. And so I had to learn how to create my own contracts, how to build in a retainer in it, how to build in a lose it or use it, and how to build in a minimum to make sure I'm reaching my targets. Oops. So fractional work is not consultant work, because consultant work is project-based, even if a long-term project is not fully integrated and usually has an end date, even if tentative, because it's not meant to be forever. Interim roles, they're full-time but temporary leadership role. They're fully integrated with the team, has an end date, and is implied unless there's an option for an interim to become a long-term or permanent team member. Let's talk about DIY reverse recruiting. So have you ever had a recruiter call you for a screening interview and you find out you're not a good fit for the role? And then the recruiter says, do you have any friends who are interested? And you're thinking, did he call me for this job in the first place, or was he wanting me to find people for this job? And that might be the case. Until a recruiter called me once and I didn't like the job that he had. And he said, well, I have some recruiter friends and they're trying to fill positions. So here are their names. And if you see anything, call me and I'll do a warm introduction. And that in and of itself is reverse recruiting. You take all the recruiter calls, and when you speak with them, even if it's a job that you don't like, you ask them who they know. And that way you get access to their network. And if you've created a good relationship with him or her, they can do a warm introduction on your behalf. And that, again, is playing chess, not checkers, because you're looking towards the long-term goal of creating this relationship and expanding your reach. Let's talk about venture capital and startups. So the Black Venture Capital Network, or Black Venture Capital Institute, is on a mission to educate more Black people on the venture capital space, and teach folks how to look out for good deals, right? Look out for companies that they can invest in. And the goal of that is to invest in the company, grow the company, and then the company goes for initial public offering. And then when that company becomes public, everybody makes a lot of money because they've invested in the company. And now the company's valuation is worth 3x, 4x, 5x of what it was initially. So there's BVI, there's also the National Venture Capital Association. I don't have that on here, but they're also portfolio companies. I'll call them portfolio companies, if you will. Like Andreessen and Horowitz, A16Z, they hold a portfolio of different companies. Y Combinator is an accelerator for startup companies. You have Excel, you have Sequoia Capital, you have Bessemer Venture Partners. And these companies also have job opportunities. People don't even think to look there, and a lot of the jobs start at 200. So for the startup ecosystem, you can get a full-time job with a potential IPO, right? These companies aren't on the stock exchange right now, but you're working there, you become invested in them, and then when they go public, you can make a lot of money. So that's why I like them. There's also a title called Entrepreneur in Residence, and that can be fractional or full-time, and you're working with startup companies. You're lending them your skill set to build them up, and you'll do a few of them at a time. And then there's the international market. For example, I learned how to do a $15,000 in 20-day flip because there were quite a few international companies that I worked with that did not understand the United States healthcare landscape. They didn't understand the regulatory market. They didn't understand how to get the reimbursements from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And I created a deck and I taught each of them how to do it. And initially it was a month's worth of work for each one, but I got it down to 2 weeks. So I did 2 weeks worth of work, and I would charge them like $10,000 every 2 weeks, and then I go on to the next one. So these are opportunities that you can plug into to use your skill set, things that you're really good at, and expand. So now, while you're going through all of this, using your God-given talents, the things that you've learned at work, trying to wheel and deal, and create new revenue streams, you have to focus on your mindset and energy because it can be very stressful. And how do you do that? So tips for dealing with recruiters, even if you're going through that typical job search. And that typical job search is a recruiter may call you. They say that they're interested in you. Then they have to wait for the hiring manager to set up an appointment. Then if you talk to the hiring manager, you might have to go to a loop interview where you're interviewing with 5 or 6 people. That could be stressful. They may ghost you and you can't control it. So here are the things I can control. I focus on my mindset, my energy, being on time, being prepared, my appearance. The things I can't control: when folks ghost me, people not responding to emails, people being mean, people not wanting to help, and then the isms, right? The racism, sexism, ageism. I don't even get frustrated about it. I just put it behind me and keep moving forward. And so I have the little serenity prayer here. God grant me the serenity for the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And then I ask myself these questions. I do a little bit of meditating, or I have a woosah. I do some breathing exercises. and I ask, what kind of energy am I giving off? Do I sound confident enough for someone to provide a warm introduction on my behalf? Do they trust me with their network? Do I sound anxious and desperate? If I do, I take a couple steps back, and I always manage my mental health. So now is when I tell you about my group advisory services, what I offer. So for the first track, I do the lifestyle and career industry fit. I have the North Star visioning, the affirmations, outcome-based resume, and everything that you see here. When I work with clients, I usually work with them for 8 weeks, and it's 2 hours each week. So for 8 weeks, you get 16 sessions. I have the first session is a 1-hour presentation, and the second hour, we do some work to craft the deliverables, or I connect you with people. I coach you on what to say and how to be successful. And for that package, I offer the replays as well as presentations. Then I have another track. It's called Sharp Focus, Stay Ready so you don't have to get ready. This is for people who are already in their careers. If they're starting a new job, I coach them on a 30, 60, 90-day plan, strategic goal setting. I have a deep dive leadership development plan and tracker, show them how to manage, how to maximize their effectiveness. There is a lot of workplace politics that tends to affect Black and brown people. So I focus a lot on that. And then I have the pocket practice scripts. I incorporate the weekly mindfulness and energy sessions and a lot of other things. It just really helps people promote and manage politics and make sure they're lining up with a particular salary, and stay on track. This third track I call Manage Stress, Protect Your Neck and Your Peace, right? So our ancestors went through a lot and fought for us to have these jobs, right? And so you have a group, some people say, oh my gosh, things aren't going well for me at my job and I'm going to tap out. There's a whole nother group of us that say, hey, I am going to manage this and I'm going to figure it out. They have a personal board of directors, and I believe everyone should have one. That is your doctor. That is your doctor. You're going to have a therapist. And the reason why you need these two people is that with the therapist, they're taking notes and the doctor is prescribing whatever you need. But those notes show that you came in with a certain level of functionality. And then due to the microaggressions or what's going on with you at your job, it is decreasing your functionality. And so since you have those notes, if you need to hire a personal injury lawyer, you're already ready to plug and play. So I offer private coaching sessions, deep dive personal assessment, well-being strategies and frameworks, coach people through FMLA, how to get it on the front end so that if you need it during your job, you already have it on the books and you can take it incrementally. Again, I do the BIPOC approach to workplace politics, the microaggressions, and the psychological safety strategy. People are suing their bosses now. The Workplace Psychological Abuse Act has been, I believe, incorporated in Massachusetts. I think Massachusetts is the first state, and there have been some high-level lawsuits against particular companies. So folks are winning. I also talk about how to navigate power dynamics. There's a workplace primer, critical conversations, as well as weekly mindfulness and energy sessions. Then my last track is Hustle and Flow with Ease. That's the entrepreneurship and private markets. We go through private coaching sessions, the foundations of venture capital and angel investing. I'm an angel investor. My first company that I invested in was Coral Mix. It is owned by a Black couple, and they couldn't get venture capital. A lot of us, well, Black people, Black women only get 1.9% of the venture capital that's available. So even though they have been making their targets, when they pitched, they couldn't get the money. And so they did crowdfunding for the community. And you could buy into the company for as little as $250 because they wanted to make it accessible to all people. So I did some small angel investing with them the first time around. I doubled down and invested again. And now they did get some money from venture capital, Backstage Capital, which is Arlon Hamilton, Whoopi Goldberg invested, and now they're in Ulta Beauty Supply. And so I feel like I'm winning. So I teach other people how to come up with a thesis and how to do the research and find different companies that they want to invest in and how to go through WeFunder and be able to track their portfolio. So I also do the approach to private markets, the startups, the crucial conversations, and the mindfulness energy here. And that's it. Here is my contact information. My company, my website is Inspired to Evolve. You can contact me, Camille at inspiredtoevolve.com. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram at Lovely Dr. Camille. I'm also on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening. Are there any questions?
Dr. Camille, that was amazing presentation. You can stop sharing. I'm gonna keep your contact information up. I'll
Okay.
share my screen and I'll keep your contact information up while doing the Q&A session.
I'm going to put the name of the Black Venture Capital Institute in the chat, just in case.
And so everyone that's online, we will, right now it's a Q&A session. I'm sure people should have questions for Dr. White. So you can go ahead if you have any questions, you can direct them to Dr. White. The floor is open.
Thank you, Rose. Rose Johnson says, I follow you on TikTok. Love your content. Awesome. There's my friend Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
So Dr. White, I have a question. I'll start it off first. I actually had several questions. The first one, when you mentioned about reaching out to 10 people a week. Now, as far as, I guess that could be depending on what you're doing. If you're an entrepreneur and you're starting a business, these people would be specific people that you would reach out to. But as far as people that are just looking for a job, and I know that social media piece is in there, but sometimes I'm thinking like if I put that information out there on social media, I might not want my job to know I'm looking for.
Right. So a lot of people don't put they don't do the green circle. They don't put that out there, but we're always networking, right? Whether we go to a conference, in person, online, or, you could be talking to your brothers, right? You're networking there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be through social media. It could be in person, in a very discreet setting.
And my second one would be the storytelling, because I know when you listen to an inspirational or motivational speaker, I know it's important for you to have that story sometimes to connect with your audience, to get people connected to your vision. But how does that work with the job part? I mean, I think that might be more just for entrepreneurs, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think that I know that people really want to get to know you and they want to get to know what you're about. So a little bit of my story is, hey, I started off in medicine, and while I was there, I encountered workplace bullying and a lot of psychological abuse. But on the upside, I was able to run into a very good group of physicians that taught me about holistic wellness and care, and I was able to get better. And then with the information that I learned from medicine, I was able to pivot it into 2 different careers successfully. I learned all about health information technology before it was even a career field, and built 2 different successful careers for myself. So you could do that. And even I talk a little bit about, I worked at Salesforce and I built a book of business from $10 million to $30 million. Easily you could create a story around that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Just a couple of brothers got their hands up.
Dr. White, this is my name is Joe Williams. I'm the Polk Mark of the Boyd Mitchellville Alumni Chapter. And first, I want to say thank you for joining us, or sharing your experience, and really for supporting us. And this was a very informational session. My question is, online they have these groups called meetups.
Oh yeah.
And I was just wondering if you could talk about their effectiveness in relation to the content that you just provided.
Sure. I haven't attended a meetup recently, but definitely it just depends. You have to make sure that what you're targeting is going to be available in the meetup group. So is it a specific industry? Is it that you're trying to expand, learn something new, whatever the content is there? As far as online webinars are concerned, I like to jump into the chats. I immediately put my LinkedIn profile in the chat, and also my contact information. And when I see other people, they'll put their LinkedIn too, and I'll automatically connect with them. And then after that, I will say, hey, Joe, it was good to see you at the such and such meetup, at the Kappa meetup. I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to have a coffee chat with you in the upcoming weeks. Would you be interested in a 15 to 20-minute virtual conversation? And that's how that goes. The meetups is a good way to break the ice because you met each other in a group previously. So yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for talking with us today. I have two questions for you. One, I just want to get some of your background on I think you talked about mentors and not being a fan of mentors. So if you could talk about that one. Second thing is you transitioned from private industry to government. Talk about that as well, because for some of us federal employees, it's a little harder to make that transition once you're kind of pigeonholed into a job grading series.
Yes. So I'm originally from Ohio, and I moved to this area when Obama became president. I was just hyped about it, and I came here. And I was told to look in the government sector, but it didn't match the salaries that I wanted. So I was in healthcare, and I was always looking into the technology, right? I was always figuring out, hey, can we have patient barcodes? Why can't I be able to get the lab values that I need faster, quicker? Hey, if I'm in Columbus, Ohio, why can't I connect with the Cleveland Clinic and get the data from there? So I was a little bit of a wonk, a little bit of a geek, and I just started writing down everything that I knew. But when I was in medical school, I met a government official that started talking about physicians as autonomous agents and the things that we wanted to do with electronic medical records. So I wanted to do health IT. They didn't have a curriculum around it, and I built that curriculum. So I've built my opportunities, and it was needed. And then other people started to become involved, and I taught those curriculums. And then from there, I went into the hospital setting to teach people how to use the electronic medical records. And then in the government space, I found out that when the service members went from duty station to duty station, they used to have to carry these paper records. And so I said, well, why can't we share them between the hospitals? And then when they retire, why can't we share them between the Veterans Health Administration? So I came up with the processes for that. And I understood from the doctor perspective how to use the medical records. And so the developers would build the technology, but there was a disconnect in how the doctors understood to use it. So I became that middle person between the developers and the physicians. So there again was my value and my usefulness, right? And so since I had all of this information, I could then take it to a large electronic medical record company. And at the time, Cerner got the contract between the Department of Defense and the Veterans Health Administration. I worked for them. And then the sororities and the fraternities, right? The Divine Nine, got a contract with the National Institutes of Health around precision medicine. We wanted to educate people at historically Black colleges, people of color, about the genomic sequence. So through my sorority, I started doing that work. And then from there, I was recruited to work at Salesforce for their health cloud. So these jobs didn't even exist when I was in college. It was because the way I thought about them and the way I packaged myself and the way I pitched it to other people. Did that help?
Yes, yes, it did. I mean, I will tell you in my job now, I'm working on some stuff on a personal brand and stuff internally for our office. And I would suggest, and it sounds like you have done that. A lot of the stuff that you've had the opportunity to do, you start to have those conversations, starting to develop what your personal brand is. And
Yes.
ultimately, what we got to understand what any of this stuff is, we got to figure out what our why is.
Right. So my why was that I still wanted to impact healthcare, right? But I wanted to use the technology. I just kept thinking, why can't we use this technology, right? And it was almost, well, nothing's by accident, but by me doing that, I started to look at what the numbers were. How many people am I actually impacting? It was like 9 million people that I had touched through the technology. And then I learned about how Google presented themselves. When you go to work at Google, they say, what are you going to do today that will help you improve the lives of 1 billion people? And that just blew me away. So in the government sector, thinking about what you're doing, how many people are you impacting? You know, not directly, but down the line. And that increases your value. And that's the importance of creating an outcomes-based resume, or even creating a brag book, because you have your receipts, right? And so when you're going to negotiate for a salary or negotiate from a job, your first conversation should be, hi, my name is Dr. White, and I've created access to care for 9 million people. Bam. You already talking about your value. And as you continue to talk, you're putting in more value points, putting in more value points, putting in more value points. By the time you get to the end where you've gone through your loop interviews, they're talking about a specific salary, and you can bump it up because they already understand what you've done. Does that make sense? And then you can frame it out. So if you're bargaining for a salary, suppose the salary you're talking about is, I'm going to say like 230, something like that. A lot of companies don't go over like, 3, because once you get they'll bonus you out afterwards. You'll get stock options. So what I like to do is, in the corporate world, I'll go to a site called levels.fyi, right? And it has a lot of the job descriptions, and it has the salaries there too. Am I at time?
Yes, so
Okay.
we're getting close. I was going to let you finish that part out, but we have about 3 minutes left before the Zoom finishes. But Dr. White, I do want to thank you. As Brother Coleman did, you've had a very lengthy and awesome amount of information for us. So at this time, we can move on to some slides that I want to talk about, and unless you have, another minute or so that you want to discuss something.
No, feel free to reach out to me at inspiredtoevolve.com. I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. So feel free to reach out to me there. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Appreciate you. Everyone else, please hang on. Let me go. Sorry here. So I want to give everyone a little bit of information on some upcoming Zoom presentations. Thursday, May the 23rd, 2024, 7 p.m. Grazel Howard, JD Chairperson of the Board of Directors of Black AIDS Institute, will be having a Zoom with them, and the topic will be the need for awareness of the impact of HIV and AIDS for people over 50 years of age. So please tune into that. And once again, we have our upcoming Kappa Takeover 2024. Please save the date. That's going to be the nation's hottest party with a purpose. Is coming back bigger and better than ever. MGM National Harbor. That will be Friday and Saturday, June the 4th and 15th, 2024. So tickets will be going on soon. So I'll give you time to take any information down from this slide that you need. And also please tell your friends to sign up for email dates for the Kappa takeover. And next slide, information that for Bowie Mitchellville, Maryland chapter BMAC of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. You have our website information right there, our Facebook information, Twitter. Just want to mention the Diamond Foundation of Bowie Mitchellville, Maryland chapter BMAC of Kappa Alpha Psi. That's the website for them is below. And Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated International Headquarters website. And with that, I would like to end this Zoom, and I would like to thank everyone for attending.
One thing, hi, this is Arthur Russell. This is being recorded, and anyone should be able to go to our Facebook page, I believe, and or YouTube and capture the recording when it's posted. Is that correct?
Yeah, Brother Kendrick did start the recording, yes.
Okay, excellent. Right.
Brother Roberts,
You can find it on our YouTube, or you can search it, or go to our Facebook page. BMAC News.
All right. Thanks, Brother Russell. With that, I think that we are at the end of our Zoom. And thank you, everyone.
Great time. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.